Everybody, Logan here. I told you. I told you. Okay. What am I referencing? The latest episode of REDE2START Podcast. If you guys watched last night, episode 27 as of recording, I was right about Avowed. And the chat, you guys are great who, whenever you guys watch and comment and chat and all that stuff during the podcast, they didn't agree with me on my total take on the Xbox Developer Direct until later on. And then, I saw more people come around because of what I was talking about. Most people just watch it and go, oh, game looked good. Sort of. We're not going to talk about the other ones because the majority of that Developer Direct had issues. You want to hear the full thing? Watch the latest episode. I'll drop the link in the comment section below. With that being said, I'm not the only one. And apparently this comes from a pretty big source. Now, well, in terms of the site, not necessarily the person, I don't know who it is, but I'm taking it some journo or something from Forbes. So I had a problem with Avowed. And it's sad because I've really been looking forward to Avowed since it was originally announced, if I'm not mistaken, back in 2020 with the launch of the Series X and S. Game looked great. Now it looks rather different. The environments look fantastic, but it comes down to the oddball characters and the cringe dialogue. And I'm not the only one who thinks this. This guy puts it a little less PC, but we know I'm just going to be honest. And the characters didn't look right. The voices didn't match with the characters. The dialogue was just all kinds of weird. It's like, who wrote that? My wife even turned to me. We were watching in the car. I was taking her to an appointment. And she goes, who wrote this? A 12-year-old? I'm like, it's that kind of dialogue where the one guy said, they called me a dumb baby. And if you've seen Avowed, it's all medieval-esque. Think Elder Scrolls-ish. And now the way the game looks, all the characters look lifeless and wrong. I'm gonna link it's too long for me to show the whole thing here, but check it out. I'll see if I can find the exact, just that cutout portion of that interview. I think it's around 6 or 7 minutes, and I'll drop it in the description below as well. With that being said, let's get into the article. And just by looking at this dude in this image, if you guys saw the trailer, it looks off. This guy just looks weird, and the voice did not match. I'm like, isn't this Obsidian? Aren't this the company with the New Vegas? And yeah, okay. It literally blew my mind. Let's get into it. Let me show you. So it says, something seemed very off about Xbox's Avowed gameplay footage. So as you can see, it's senior contributor Paul Tassi. Whoever you are, thank you for this article. And this came out today, and as you can see, it's from Forbes. I hate these videos. So this dude just looked way off, and the voice did not match. I mean, the characters were put together like soulless lumps of clay. It was just really weird. So, stupid ads. I'm going to skip through portions, and I'm going to read this and then give you a summary of pretty much everything else. Xbox ran through 5 different game features during Thursday's Developer Direct, and the most positive discussion about Hellblade 2 and Indiana Jones in the Great Circle, it appears. But Avowed, the upcoming RPG from Fallout New Vegas, The Outer Worlds developer Obsidian, is drawing quite polarizing takes. Correct. So Hellblade 2, like I mentioned, it looks good. I'm sure it's going to be great. I'm just tired of waiting. A lot of people are. Nick said the same thing, and he loved the first Hellblade. But it's the waiting that people are like, okay, when it comes out, it comes out. Yeah. Indiana Jones, everybody's afraid of Indiana Jones because of how amazing it looks. But if you watch the last one, what was it, Dial of Destiny? It was a bait and switch where they just made Indiana Jones just look like a real beta. and it wasn't Indy. And then at the end of the trailer, they introduced a female character, which a lot of people are now thinking that they're going to replace Indy with this chick, and people don't want that. So everything they showed, a lot of us are saying we just hope it's not a bait and switch. We just hope it's going to be all indie all the time, good classic style indie, especially where the game takes place. But let's continue with Avowed. And this is the big reason why I wanted to address it, because of this passage. I have seen a number of people, especially many Xbox fans, saying that Avowed looked amazing and they were really impressed with the showcase, but I find myself doing the Ryan Gosling award show meme face, and I'm not quite sure what everyone else watched here. So as an Xbox fan, I thought everything in terms of environments looked great. The combat was weird. It just felt off compared to what I guess the teaser trailers initially showed. It looked a little more, grounded, but hey. And this guy makes a good point, but let me continue. Something was just off about the whole presentation and how the gameplay looked. In my initial first reaction take, I said that it looked like a VR game, which are usually first-person games that look pretty dated, limited because of the tech, but they're supposed to be offset with the novelty of the VR itself. Avowed is not that. It's a normal PC console game, and as such, the effect is very off-putting. That's what it was. I couldn't figure out, something was off about it, and it just looked floaty. Yes, it looked like a VR game in terms of movement and everything. It was just odd. While the stylized color palette looks neat, combat itself is in the demonstration, looked extremely stiff and added to the VR effect. It felt like something was wrong with the field of view, with it being far too narrow and constraining the effect combat area. So this was the Avowed deep dive. This is the long one. If I can find the shorter one, that's the one I'll post for just the trailer, but otherwise I'll post this one. This wasn't the one I was looking for, but this is the longer one. And maybe if you want, I'll just link the article. I don't know. I'll figure it out. It is kind of hard to make first-person spellcasting and melee combat work effective. Immortals did that. Immortals of Avium, it actually did it pretty well because the gauntlet he was using was spellcasting and kind of shooting. So that did it, I think, pretty well. We don't see it all that often, or if we do, it is in concert with more traditional gunplay. But here, the combat somehow looks more unnatural than even the 13-year-old Skyrim. Skyrim is fantastic. Elder Scrolls series have been fantastic. And don't get me started on what they did with the 2024 global reveal for ESO and all the new content. There was a big problem there. Watch the whole podcast and you'll see what I'm talking about. Not that I was expecting a game of the scope and depth, but something about this just didn't sit right with me on a visceral level. Okay, he goes on and talks about it. Talks a bit more. Where is it? Okay. You know what? I'm just going to read the rest because of what I feel it needs to say. I'm just going to read the rest. Obsidian's best strength is RPG storytelling. Also seemed a bit odd in this demonstration. Its animations are again very stiff, even more so than Bethesda's Starfield, which was itself criticized for its somewhat awkward animations when many games have moved more into full performance capture. Here, most of the time, it's just a mouth and eyebrows moving like a puppet. The dialogue itself and its delivery also just didn't seem to match the character saying it. Thank you. That was the most important line here, because it's very, 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 very important to notice that these characters are wrong. Like, watch it if you haven't already. The characters are wrong. Listen to them. Look at how they move. Look at how they act. Look at the things they say. I mean, It's like they just took some oddball, snowflake millennial to voice these characters that look like puppets in a world of magic and mysticism and knights and dragons and monsters. It was wrong. It was just bad casting. Some have taken the complaints to mean that the writer just hates lower budgeted games, and I am what's wrong with the industry demanding AAA hyper budget. No, you're not wrong. You're pointing out things that this is Avowed isn't. It is a AAA game. It's a AAA game put out, budgeted, given to them by Microsoft. So this is a AAA game. But I can name a million AA or indie games that are enjoyable or look good in different ways. Some people say this is a AA game. I completely disagree. This is a full AAA game backed by Microsoft and Xbox Game Studios. For Obsidian. Obsidian has put out AAA games. They have Fallout New Vegas was a AAA game, and it's what they're best known for. So, and again, while no one should have expected Elder Scrolls 5.5 from this, in many ways it did feel stuttery, yes, stiff, and yes, and dated in a way that was not especially attractive or hype-inducing. For him and for me, at least, I agree. This is not a judgment of the final product. Agreed. Combat could be a lot more fun when you get your hands on it. Agreed. The story is far more than the 2 minutes of dialogue we've seen, but I'd argue that this was a kind of bizarre presentation that did not make a great impression for one of Xbox's most anticipated games. We'll see how it turns out this year, supposedly. I agree. Paul, okay, I don't know what you're talking about, or what the other things that you write about. I don't know. But this take is solid. Hands down. Hands down. You are correct here. And when it comes to highly anticipated Xbox games, this is at the top for most people, especially those of us who are really big into Elder Scrolls games. This is something that we've been anticipating between now and Elder Scrolls 6. But if Starfield is any indication of what Elder Scrolls may be, hopefully it's not going to be as disappointing as Starfield. And this is something sad to think about. And when it comes to just the overall presentation of this game, it was maybe a C at best, because the environments looked fantastic. The original trailer made it look like it was going to be a darker medieval. This one's more fantasy, high fantasy, we should say, with all the colors and the landscapes and everything. But it looks pretty good in terms of environment. It's just the characters, the voice acting, the dialogue, and normally for a massive reveal like this, you'd pick some of your best voice work and best character interactions. It looks like they picked the worst. I really hope that wasn't their best, or maybe it's all they had at the time. I don't know, and especially with this game coming out later this year, I really, really don't know what to think at this point. All I know is, one thing I did say in the podcast is if this is any indication of the final product, I was going to buy it physically. It'll be just a Game Pass game for me. Nothing more, which is a dang shame, because I like to have a physical collection. But the way physical games are going, you're just getting a small amount of data on the disc and not the full game. So that also remains to be seen. That being said, what do you guys think about it? Take a look, watch the whole thing. The devs kind of made you go, they were kind of cringy. The dialogue was kind of cringy. It just, everything was a bit cringy. And I think they could have, I realized they wanted to pick like the people who actually worked on the game, but when you're making a big presentation like this, maybe you should have picked some professional voice actors or voice work, or just actors in general to present your product. I know it's a dev direct, I get it, and they wanted to show off the developers. I'm sure you had some better developers in that building that could speak a little better, that could present a little better. But that has nothing to do with it. That's just me being me, nitpicking, because working in front of large audiences and working in front of crowds and with the public, it tends to wear on you, and you tend to see stuff like this, and you tend to point it out, and it's that's nothing. Don't worry about that. That's just me nitpicking. I just really care about the final product that they're going to put out here. Visually, environments look fantastic. Combat, let's work on it. I don't know how much they're going to have time, so hopefully they say, yeah, let's work on it, and let's listen to what people are saying. And then the dialogue, they go, okay, that didn't come across well. Let's fix it. Let's change it. Let's get some new voice actors. Maybe they're too far in deep. Maybe the game gets pushed back to fix a couple of things. I wouldn't mind. At this point in time, we're, 4 or 5 years in by the time it comes out? I think it was announced in 2020. So, hey, is what it is. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, share this video. Tell me what you guys think about Avowed. I don't know how many views this video will get because people aren't really talking about it as much as I thought. But hey, we'll see. Thank you guys so much. Again, check out our latest episode of Ready to Start Podcast. Myself and Nick dive into all of this, and I just go off because that's what I'm good at, especially when it comes to Xbox products. Ooh. Yeah. Thank you guys so much. Like we always say, be legendary. Thanks again.